Welcome to Wax On, Wax Off, the podcast where a teenager gains wisdom and insight from pioneers and innovators that have come before in search of how to win in every facet of life and change the world. I'm your host, Solomon Cole, and let's get into today's episode.
Hey, am I a pioneer or an innovator?
Yeah, you're a pioneer of making me who I am and other people who they are.
Okay.
Yeah, you're the success maker or something. I mean, and you're a pioneer in anyway, let's not get into it.
Okay.
Anything that this man does turns to gold, and he's not gonna say that for himself because he's not allowed to or something, but he's the best. Anyway,
he's too kind.
If you don't know, you should go back and listen to the old episode. Brandon is the best. He's been on 2 episodes. Only person ever to have already been on 2 episodes.
Come on.
Wax On, Wax Off. This is episode number 3 that he's on. He has a podcast called Who Needs a Name with PB&J? A new podcast that's coming out very soon. Will probably be out by the time that this happens.
Probably. You're going to be a guest on that one.
I will.
Yep.
Do you know what you're going to call it?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, that's what it's going to be called.
I have
no idea with Brandon Mazur. No, he's the best. He's been a good friend of mine. He has really helped me grow into the person that I am today, and continues to help me. So I want to start off just kind of congratulating you. We are 5-6 days away from your wedding. How many days?
4
days.
4 days away from my wedding. He's in it. He doesn't even know. I'm kidding.
I am in the wedding. How did you know that her name is? Are we allowed to say her
name? Yeah, Kendall.
Woo. How did you know that she's the one?
It's a great question.
Out of all of the many girls that you have at your fingertips, at the press of anything, a button, anyone, what made her the one?
That's a great question. Let me start too by not answering your question and just by saying what an honor it is to be back here with this guy. You're amazing, and I'm really proud of you for doing this. I know I say it every episode, but you're 17. And there are very few 17-year-olds I know, and who I'm sure everybody listening knows, who have the drive and ambition and desire to pull something like this off. So the fact that you've been so faithful and consistent with that, I'm really proud of you. Yeah. And I think that's awesome. Now, to answer your question that you asked, how did I know Kendall was the one?
Out of all of the many other women that you have at your disposal.
Okay.
No, just kidding. Anyway.
How did I know? Well, Kendall and I were best friends for years. And
when I met you, I met Kendall. It was same deal. You guys were you weren't dating. You were just really good friends.
Yeah. We were not dating, but we did get to know each other really well as friends first. And I think for people who are listening who may want to jump right in and date somebody, I don't think there's anything wrong with that per se, but I do think there is something unique for us of building a relationship on friendship for so long, where we really just got to see each other in groups, see each other with other people. For me, really see her do ministry, and for her see me do ministry, because that's what we're in, pastorally and all that. And so getting to walk that journey, and then there are a couple things that I made me really, really, really sure about Kendall. One, and this is going to be Christian, I'm sorry, because I know that this can, is meant to apply to other people, but a big thing for me was I knew that she loved Jesus more than she loved me. And as long as I felt like she would always love Jesus more than me, I knew she would love me well, because it would be an overflow of that. So that was a really big thing for me, as well as whenever I was, practically speaking. Yeah.
Can I ask? Okay.
Sure.
Why is that important? Why? Because I think a lot of people who maybe don't come from a religious background would be well, I kind of want to be the thing. I want to be the number one. Why is that more important, that she loves something else, specifically in this situation, God, more than you?
Yeah.
What makes that a good thing?
Well, that's a great question. In my mind, you need an external reference point in life. For one thing. Okay, this is a big picture question and answer, okay? But you need an external reference point that is something beyond yourself or another person to get your values from, your identity from, everything from. As a believer in Jesus, that's where I get everything about me. As well, I believe that it's really impossible to authentically, genuinely love somebody without that love flowing from God. I'm not saying people who don't worship God can't love, because they can be still receiving and still be living in this fallen world and still convey that. At the same time, the more somebody's chasing after God and receiving his love, the better they'll be able to love the people around them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all about having that. I agree with you completely. It's having that external outlet that you are whatever you're loving, getting loved by, and this like reciprocal love that's outside of kind of anything like relationally in a way. You know what I mean? It's like not like human to human. It's this outside force where you like have this hope in something that you know you can depend on 100% of the time, every single day of the week, every single
and then you're not gonna be so reliant on somebody else and ups and downs. Of course you will be to some degree, but like more than anything, man, if you're rooted in Jesus, you're good. Like that's who you are in him. So I think that for one thing. I also think, practically speaking, like I didn't make a move on Kendall for a long time, and you know that. And then I had this fear of, what if I don't end up with her and somebody else does? And it drove me crazy, that thought. Like, I can't imagine my life without this person, because she makes me better. She had so much joy to my life, so much life to my life, and I can't imagine not having her in my life. And what I realized is I waited so long to make a move because I was afraid of losing her. But ironically, if I never made a move, I was going to lose her. So it was like this circular thing, but I realized I'm better with her in my life, and I can't imagine it without. And so it's really important for me, and that's whenever we made the move.
No, yeah, totally. And I think that like predicament that you were in kind of goes like so many ways, is because like even like me with my podcast, getting it started back up after I did it, it was like I want to do it, but I'm afraid, what if I no one sees it, or what if it doesn't affect anyone, or what if I'm just putting all this effort into this podcast and nothing's going to come out of it, and you get like paralysis analysis, and
analysis paralysis.
Yep, flipped it.
Yeah.
And your paralysis of analysis.
Okay, that works.
That's what I meant to say. No, but you're constantly it's like it's hysterical, because it's like you are trying to achieve something, but your fears are holding you back.
Yeah.
But if you just don't let your fears hold you back, you can achieve the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%. And if you let those fears hold you back, you'll never walk in what you're supposed to walk into. So you've got to just overcome that at some point and just say the risk is worth it. Because if you let that fear rule you, you're just letting that fear win.
Yeah.
You're not ever going to accomplish anything.
Completely.
Yeah, 100%.
Agree. Yeah. So what would you say for those of us who aren't engaged and who are looking to have a good dating experience, or like find the one or whatever? What would you say is your like best dating advice, being an almost married man?
Almost married man. I think the advice I would give is mostly what I feel like people have given me going into marriage, but that I think would be really good for the dating relationship in general. I found is find ways to be selfless and not put yourself first. Like I still don't always realize just how like selfish I can be, and really like, okay, what do I want? What do I need? And really put that as like the number one thing. Whenever in reality, the most joyful times in a relationship are whenever you're both caring for one another, putting the other ahead of yourself. And it's like we hear that so much, but it can be challenging to live out. But I think that's really, really key. So how can I serve the other person today? How can I go out of my way to show love to the other person today? And maybe that's in a way that I don't receive love, but they do, right? So like, if you feel love through acts of service, but I feel through words, I can encourage you all day long, but maybe I should find a way to serve you that day, right? And so just learning about each other. The other thing too, I'll throw people off sometimes and refer to Kendall as my girlfriend intentionally, because the idea is like, you never want to stop dating the person, you know, and never grow so familiar that you stop having fun and getting to know more about them. So I think just living in that constant state, and
because I think marriage can become stagnant at a point where it's like, oh, this is just my wife, and then I have my whatever I do. Yeah, so that's really cool. And yeah, anyway.
I also think this: if you are like a follower of Jesus, something really cool to do, pray every night.
Mhm.
Even that if that's on the phone. I mean, I like we'll miss nights here or
Mhm.
there, but by and large, we've started that practice, and
Mhm.
it's been just a really powerful thing for us. So I think that would be like a really practical tip, I would say too.
Yeah, I should have done that.
You can.
No, I mean,
You
yeah.
can.
No,
Yeah.
anyway.
Cut. No, I'm
Cut.
kidding. Also, Solomon hit me before this started, and it's red and it hurts.
Well, is there even a mark?
Yeah, it's
No
not
mark.
there.
You can't.
It's not
I
there.
hit you here though.
No, you okay?
We'll put the clip in, and you can see what happened because that is not what happened. Yeah, and I liked when you talked about like loving them the way you need or the way that they need to be loved.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's like I kind of use like the birthday analogy is like you
Okay.
give people gifts that you want, you know what I mean? Like you're trying to love them the way that you want to be
Yeah.
loved.
Yeah.
Like trying to like maybe like drop a hint or something or like be like I don't know why this is becoming a dating episode, but like you like you kind of like drop hints like, oh, this is I'm doing this because I want you to do it. Like,
Yeah.
come on, like reciprocate, and and that's not actually how it happens because they're
Yeah.
like, you're not meeting my needs, so why the heck should I meet your needs? Which is probably not healthy, but still.
But then it can spiral, and it can
Yeah.
spiral either way. That's
Yes.
I think the important thing. Like it's never actually stagnant. Like we said, it's always actually heading in one direction or the other. It might
Yeah.
be subtle, it might be slow, but it's moving in one direction, but you control which direction it moves.
Yeah.
So you can choose to move it in a healthy way
Mhm.
by saying, okay, what's the other person need and how can I best meet that? Or how can I best show that I care about them today? And I feel like I'm really growing in that.
Mhm.
Like this is all kind of new. It's new for me. I've never been married, never been engaged, any of that. So
Mhm.
like it's new for me, and I don't think you realize how selfish you are as a person until
No,
you actually
totally.
get in a committed relationship, because then you're like, it's not all about me,
Mhm.
you know? And how can I put this other person first?
Yeah, that's something that I'm trying to do. I write it on my hand every day is the next right thing.
Yeah.
Because
I like that.
I try really hard to like not be selfish because even in a lot of I'm naturally like a self-serving human being,
Yeah.
like higher than other people, and that sucks that's a thing, but it also makes me I don't know like better in some ways because I get to excel in different areas.
Sure.
But constantly having to like make that decision to be selfless, like I'm like holy crap, I am so selfish in this.
Yeah.
Like when I should like just even like the little things that you kind of forfeit and you just like let the other person have.
Yeah.
It's like whoa,
Yeah.
like I am so selfish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something I've been doing is like really making the next right. Like what is the next right thing? Like because when you're doing that and you're just in the present moment, what can I do now that is the next right thing? What can I do now that is the right thing to do? Just one decision, one step at a time.
Yeah.
That's like the best way to live life.
Yeah. I just said this on our podcast, but Craig Rochelle always says, like extraordinary people do consistently what ordinary people do occasionally, you know, and it's really developing that. What's the next right thing? And can I do it consistently? It's developing those disciplines, right? The consistent things in your life that are going to produce fruit over the long haul, but you've got to develop that habit and that discipline within your heart and within your life.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a question, and I didn't have this planned, but when you
so far none of this has been planned.
This is kind of just freelance.
I love it.
But whenever you want to make the right decision and you don't, do you beat yourself up and like really hold it over your head? And then how do you avoid that? How do you stop that? How do you like have grace for yourself? That's
a good question.
Yeah.
I really have a hard time not speaking in like from a Christian perspective, so forgive me for that. But I do and I don't. Okay, and what I mean by that is like I think there is a healthy. Neither extreme is good, right? If I screw up and I mess up and I feel nothing as a result of that, I actually don't think that's good. Like I do feel like you should feel a little bit in the Christian verbiage, we would say a little bit of conviction, right? Like, oh my gosh, I should have done this instead of this, or I should have done something at all instead of nothing, right? Like, and I think that's healthy because that can produce one of two things. It can produce action in the future, so that whenever you face that again, you're like, okay, wait, I'm going to choose a different path. Or it can lead you to a really, really shame, guilt mindset that would be unhealthy. So I think people, and that's where people will beat themselves up too much, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think conviction is really like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, and I'm not going to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
And a really condemning, guilt, shame heavy perspective is like, I shouldn't have done that, and I suck.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of taking that and just being like, no, there's room to improve, and that's actually a really good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I never want to not feel bad when I do something wrong. I just want to respond in the right way.
Yeah. And I think it's a lot harder to not be what you do when you are a person who is very achievement oriented.
Yeah.
Because you like, for me, I am my achievements, and it's a struggle, and I constantly have to remind myself I'm not what I do.
Yeah.
Because you quote Craig Rochelle, you
Yeah.
do what you do because of what you think of you. So if
Yeah.
you think that, like, if you make a bad decision and you think because you made that bad decision you are bad, you are going to continue to make bad decisions.
Yeah.
And vice versa. You think you're going to do, or you do good decisions, you think you are a person who makes good decisions, you're going to make more good decisions statistically.
Yeah. There's a really big difference between, oh, I did something bad and I am bad.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm
like,
yeah. Okay. So I am a person who thinks I am bad, right? If I mess up, I'm holding it over my head and it is up here, and I'm like, oh, I will never get out from under this. What do you, for those people?
Yeah.
What do you recommend?
Well, where do you get your worth and your value from? If you get it from your accomplishments and from what you produce at the end of the day, then that makes sense you feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything rises or falls on that.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you don't do what you want to do, and that's where you get your worth, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then you suck. But if you get your worth and your value from something beyond what you produce and what you do, it's the Christianese, right? Like, God cares more about who than do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if your identity is first and who he says that you are, and then what you do is the byproduct response to that, then it's all going to be a lot healthier in the end, because regardless of what I do, I know who I am,
Mm-hmm.
and my actions are going to fall in line as time progresses.
Yeah. That's really good. That makes a lot of sense.
That's oh my gosh, you should just label this cheesy Christian talks to Saul. But like, that's the difference between salvation and sanctification. Salvation is I'm changed. I'm saved by Jesus. This is what we believe, right? Mm-hmm. Like, Jesus died. He saved me from my sins, gives me new life. I've been saved. Now I have a new identity as a child of God. I know who I am. Sanctification is every day the Holy Spirit makes me more like Jesus, and I look more like him. And how do we look more like him? Honestly, a lot of times by falling, by failing, but by getting back up, right? Righteous men may fall, but he gets back up again in the end. And so knowing who you are and then allowing to do to flow from that. Yeah. I'll let you move on because this wasn't even our episode.
No. Yeah, it's good. I like where this is going. Last time you were on the podcast, you were kind of like getting started in your self-discipline journey.
Yeah.
And you were really like taking conscious control of like your life with your health, your life with like your personal personal health, and like with yourself, whether that's like physical health and mental health.
Yeah.
How has that been going? What have you been doing?
Yeah. I love this. This is fun.
Because you've lost like so much weight. I just want to.
Yeah, it's crazy. Actually, don't watch the old episode.
Yeah, can we? Whoever's editing this, can you just do a quick cut to a picture of Brandon from the last episode and then put it back here?
Yeah. It has been a journey, and it's been so fun. I think there's so much value. What I basically decided is I'm gonna get hyper disciplined about what I'm doing, and not in an unhealthy way, and we should talk about that. But it's like, especially within the faith community, it's so often happens for people to over spiritualize everything. Okay, and everything is the enemy's coming at me and Satan's attacking me, and I feel like that can be used as an excuse, and I feel like I could have used that as an excuse. And just in reality, it's kind of just like, no, that's like, not the enemy. Just get off the couch and go work out.
Yeah, it's like you're just
do some things. And yes, there's reality to all that, but so much of it is just like, okay, before I get really dramatic about something, I'm gonna like, what are the disciplines I have in my life? So I realized, right, a few months, I guess this was almost a year ago, 10 months ago, that I was in like the worst shape of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I looked and felt like Jabba the Hutt. Okay, like
It wasn't that
it
bad.
was just bad, and I weighed like 205 pounds. I'm like 6 feet tall. So, and that was not good weight, let me tell you. Okay, it was the weight you don't want. And I felt mentally not great, mentally kind of like I was just plateauing and not really improving. And so I'm the type of guy, I've always had like kind of a, also interject whenever.
Mm-hmm.
I've had like a, I've never been able to control what I eat. And so that was
I'm
a
with
big
you.
thing for me. Yeah. And so I'm also the type of guy who just, if I'm going to do something, I need to go all in and
Mm-hmm.
just full send. Yes. Can I say balls to the wall on here? I don't
Balls
know.
to the wall.
But you just got to go full send this thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, what we're going to do is we're going to work out every day. I'm going to go keto, which is a really extreme diet and not recommended for everybody, but
Shout out Ketotarian. You can buy that at drwillcole.com.
come on. We
Keto
love
book.
DWC. Shout out DWC.
Shout out DWC.
I'm a big fan. And so I was like, okay, we're gonna do that, and it seems extreme. And I'm gonna start reading books, and I'm gonna start getting healthier sleep patterns, and I'm gonna just, and I started doing these small things. The next right thing, as you talked about,
Mhm.
just I don't need to think about where I'm gonna be in 10 months. What can I do today that's gonna develop healthy patterns? And as I started to develop those, um, I've seen such fruit come from that. I've lost like at least 20 pounds and put on a lot of muscle. I feel way mentally clear, and I've still got like a ways to go, but I can now see the progress, but it took time and it took consistency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you started out, did you view it as like this is going to be a forever thing, or I'm just trying to get to this like certain weight or this certain physique or whatever?
Both and components of it were like, okay, keto was not going to be a forever thing,
Mhm.
but I needed to forever break off this, like I can't control what I eat.
Mhm.
And so I needed time where I was like proving to myself. And now I'm like, okay, I can just eat healthy. I don't need to, because I
Mhm.
developed that. So like that's not a forever thing, but working out, the mental, even just mental disciplines that I have for like, okay, negative thought comes in,
Mhm.
how I control that, like those I hope are all going to be lasting things that I keep forever.
Yeah, and it's not about, and what you were talking about a little bit is that like you can have two forms of discipline. You can have the discipline where it's like I'm doing this because I want to do things that are going to love me back. Do things that I love to do that are going to love me back. That's very
Yeah.
simple. That is a win-win all the time. But then you can also do things that you love or maybe that you don't love that are good for you, but you're doing them with the wrong motive or intention.
Yes.
I talked about this before. I would go on vacation and then like whatever, we're like 2 days, maybe one day before coming back home. I'm planning like how am I going to torture myself back into being what I was or working out this much or doing this. And it's like it's ironic that it's like no, I should just do things that love me back. I
Yeah.
don't always have to
Yeah.
be working out every single day because
Yeah.
there are probably days where I'm physically going to need to take a break.
Yeah.
Don't be the person that takes a break all the time because most likely you don't
Yeah.
need to take a break all the time.
Yeah.
But also like give yourself that space to
Yeah.
rest and recover and recuperate.
And you should not do something because, oh my gosh, I'm ashamed or I feel like all these negative emotions. For me, like I tried that a bunch of times. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't like the way I look or the way I think or any of these things. I need to just do better. I need to try harder. Instead, what I really realized is like, no, I want to enjoy the things, and I found like I enjoy these patterns, right? But there was a season where like I had to create the cravings, if you will, with my body, right? So I'm like, I wouldn't want to work out. I think there's something to like, okay, a couple weeks, you just go after what you want, and then your craving will start to shift towards that. But you're right. Then you need to rest and you need to take it easy and you need to make sure you're doing it in a healthy way because a healthy thing done in an unhealthy way is going to be destructive. So making sure that the things you're pursuing and you're doing are done in a way that's going to be positive for you, healthy for you, and fruitful for you. I think it's really important. Don't just, oh my gosh, I'm not going to eat and I'm going to work out 24/7. Like, no, that's not healthy.
Yeah, you have to like eat practically. When you're working out, you're burning calories. You need to be putting those calories back into your body. I'm not a nutritionist. Talk to my dad about it.
DWC.
DWC. He'll explain it all way better than I can. But there are practical things that like you do need to actually refill your battery because you are expending it to help your battery grow.
Yeah, and that's unique to everybody, I think. Especially whenever it comes like mental, right? Like resetting for me is going out with a couple friends and just hanging out for a night, right? For other people, that's like I need to sit inside and read a book. For other, and I think that may change through life too.
Shout out DWC.
Shout out DWC.
Let me go in a bathtub and read a history book. Yeah.
Couldn't be me, but I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So finding the rhythms of your life that work for you, developing disciplines that are going to take you to where you want to be tomorrow in a healthy way. That's not going to allow you to become toxic.
Were there ever days that you, like after you kind of got over that hump and you had that craving for working out and for the self-discipline stuff, were there ever days when you're like, I just don't want to be consistent and you know you need to, and you just kind of want to drop out and stop? And 100%. How did you get over that?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think I might have talked about this on your podcast before.
Really?
Because I talk about it a lot. But remembering what you want most over what you want now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I stole that from somebody, but I've applied that to like every aspect of my life. If I'm making a decision, am I making it for now or for the long run? Because every decision we make is going to have ripple effects, and you're sowing seeds. And if I'm sowing a seed that I'm not going to like the harvest, it's easier to just not sow that seed than to deal with the plant, right? And so like there are some days where I know what's best for me, and this is not, oh, I'm not resting, or it's not done in an unhealthy way. It's no, I should do this thing. It's a good discipline, a good habit, but I don't want to. I remind my mind, why am I doing this? Why am I in this? And in remembering my why in the long term, it gives me motivation to operate effectively in the now. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What do you think are good whys, and what do you think are bad whys?
Oh, that's really good. Okay. I think a lot of them for me personally have like a spiritual root, right? It's like whenever it came to working out, I was like, I just want to like honor God with things I'm consuming and the way I'm living, and
it's ironic. The Bible says like treat your body like a temple, and it's like let's all go to Chick-fil-A and eat a bunch of trash. Like not you can do that. And
Chick-fil-A can be good for you.
It can be good.
The salads,
but I'm just saying
the salads.
I'm saying,
bro,
it could be in if you're not in church, ignore this. But if you are in church, it's like so many people just like eat fast food, and it's like this like thing that you all go out and like you're not, you know what I mean? And you can do whatever you want. By your individuality, do whatever you want. I'm not saying don't eat fast food. I love fast food.
He's a hater.
I'm a hater. No, I'm not. No, but I'm saying like anyway, that's something I wanted to.
No, go ahead.
No, that was it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The whys.
The whys. So I think a lot of it is that I also think, you know, having a selfless why is really good too. So if I'm going through my day, this wouldn't have to do with necessarily like working out and stuff like that. Maybe it does, but if I'm just trying to become I really felt recently like I just need to be a kinder person, right? If my motivation stops there, I'm gonna give in as soon as I don't want to be kind to somebody. But if I'm able to think, what are the impacts that my kindness can have on all the people I interact with, and the longevity of that impact, and I remember that why, that's why I'm doing it, because of the greater picture, that will inspire the now. So like a selfless motivation, also a spiritual motivation. And then I just think if you've got a goal, right? Hey, I want to start a podcast like Solomon, right? Because I think Solomon's cool. And I want to pursue that and do that. Okay, you're going to have to develop some disciplines. You're going to have to record whenever you don't feel like it. You're going to have to set some dates where you say, I'm going to accomplish these things. But why am I doing it? because I know what the end goal is. And so I
Mhm.
think that can be healthy. Unhealthy ones, I think, are ones that are going to cost you your joy in your life, right? You're gonna forfeit
Mhm.
everything, and you're gonna die on this hill. And some hills are worth dying on, but very few,
Mhm.
so being selective with that. But it's going to cost you more than it's going to get you,
Mhm.
right? And it's not going to produce really any meaningful fruit
Mhm.
other than a temporary thing.
Yeah.
I think those are shallow.
Yeah, and I think a why, it's like a line in, I think Alexander Hamilton said this, and he said,
Okay, history buff.
history buff. Maybe this is just in the Hamilton musical and I made this up. But he says, like, I want to build something that's going to outlive me. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
that is really the biggest why. Because if you're building something that is going to outlive you and you're doing it not so that in my lifetime I can get this success, it's in the people that are really trying to create something that's going to outlive them. Because even if you look at it in business, the people who take the quick cash grabs or the pyramid scheme or whatever, sure, maybe they make loads of money, but it's not the amount of success that you can get if you're trying to build something that's going to outlive you. And that's the same deal with pretty much anything. Look at it from working out. If you're trying to just do this is something that I want to do for the rest of my life, you are going to most likely be more healthy than the person who says, I want this big biceps and I want like abs and whatever, and they're saying that versus
Still don't
just
have the abs.
yeah,
Still
you'll
don't
get
have.
there.
Yeah, maybe.
No,
No, that's really good.
No, but it's building something that's going to outlive you. And that's like, for my podcast, I had to switch it because it used to be, I'm going to be honest, this is my podcast.
Yeah.
Isn't it so
Yeah.
cool? This is my podcast and I get to make it the
Mhm.
way I want to make it.
Mhm.
And now I want it to be about you listening. You know what I mean? I want
Yeah.
it to be about you. And I want it to not suit my needs and ask the questions that I want to ask. I want it to actually be something that's going to be effective and really
Yeah.
helpful to your life.
Yeah.
And I think doing that in any form or aspect of your life
Yeah.
is really going to help you and make your life so much more enjoyable.
Yeah, it's finding a bigger purpose than you.
Mm-hmm.
That's so key, dude. That's the best way to put it. Which, by the way, like, let him know what you want him to talk
please.
about, and
There's a little. If you're
let
on
him
Spotify,
know how you like this.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of work you put into this.
Yeah, if you're on Spotify, there's a little bar. Tell me what you thought. YouTube, little bar. Tell me what you thought. Plug it in. Whatever. DM me. I don't care.
Finding a bigger why outside of yourself is so important. And I'd also say this: whether or not you believe in Jesus or not, the Bible says Jesus endured the cross for the joy set before him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, in the immediate near future, there's nothing enjoyable about the cross, right? Mm-hmm. But he had the bigger picture why motivating and driving him to endure and to give up his life for a greater cause. Mm-hmm. And so I think whenever we're talking develop disciplines, there are going to be things that you need to endure to get to where you want to go, but you'll be able to endure and you'll be able to continue on that path if you have a why that is bigger than you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. The Stoics talk about living so upwardly that, like, living just like on such an upward trajectory that they are enjoying their life so much and actually doing healthy things, not just serving themselves, but living on such an upward trajectory that death doesn't even matter. You know what I mean? And like the idea of dying and that this could end, it's just, no, I am like just going up and I am enjoying that. That's hard to do. And yet it takes a lot of learning to do. And even if you read like Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, he's constantly like writing to himself, like, I want to do this better. I want to figure this out. This is the problem that I'm facing. It's not that you're not going to face problems, but it's like living that upward trajectory that is so high and making that next right thing, doing that next right decision is going to lead to that and lead to a like happier, healthier life.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're not responsible for the 10th step down the line. You're responsible for the next one.
Mm-hmm. And right? A lot of people think vision, like, I want to get here, and that's what keeps them. And I've done this so many times because I'm a big vision person. And I see this, and then what I do is I go back and I take a couple steps back, and then pretty much like mentally I take the steps back, and then I go walk back up in reality. Yeah. And after you do that enough times, you kind of just skip the steps and just are like kind of just like not like, well, I don't care about the steps. And then once you get there, you like get to that mountaintop, you get the enjoyable experience, but then it's like, okay, well, I didn't enjoy the steps. You have to enjoy the steps and make that next right decision and start to like learn to enjoy that, because that's something that I am having to do every single day, and that's why I write on my hand is the next right thing.
Yeah.
Do the next right thing and be in the present moment, because it's so easy in this world to live passively and let life happen to you, even if you are actively trying to get better, still trying to like grow and just make that next right step.
Yeah, and the steps are going to prepare you for the destination,
Mhm.
right? And the reality is, this is a common saying, but like talent can get you places. Character will keep you places. Character is developed along the journey, right? And so if
It's
I'm
about
if
the
I'm,
journey. Have you ever seen that video?
No, but
It's
I
Miley
laughed.
Cyrus that says like it's about the journey, and then they play like a dirt bike because that's what her voice sounds like. Sorry,
Wow.
Miley.
Do you know what I'm saying though?
Yeah, completely.
It's like, so that's important too, to say, okay, along the step, every step of my journey, what is something I need to take from here? What is something I need to learn from this? What is one thing that I need to grow in order to take the next step in the journey? And I think if you despise the day of small beginnings, and if you look at the space that you're in right now and say, I wish I were here, instead of saying, how can I navigate and take and grow and learn from the season I am in, you're not going to be ready for the next step. So really finding what's in this right now that I need to take with me, developing whatever that is. And I would agree with you, dude. Like, the reason why I am enjoying talking about disciplines is because I'm such a vision guy too. You know this. That does not come naturally to me. Like, I can dream all day long, and I feel like I can, by nature, I can just see what can be, okay, and what I believe will be, and I can get so caught in that I lose being in the moment. And I lose, what do I need to do today? How can I be faithful today? How can I steward something today? Whenever in reality, to get to the dream, I need those daily disciplines.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I kind of want to switch lanes here a little bit.
Let's merge, man.
Merge.
Turn
Such
signal.
a funny word.
Turn signal on.
I'm so delusionally tired. We have energy drinks and they're kicking in, but I'm so tired right now.
Why?
Everything is hysterical.
I'm wired, man.
Really?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I don't know why.
I'm here for the ride.
Poor Sullivan came over an hour and a half ago, but I had to fix our blinds that fell down.
Yeah.
And so you just sat there for an hour.
Yep.
Sorry.
That's
Okay. Good.
You were you were the most optimistic person I know. Okay.
Okay. Pivot.
What is the importance of optimism and always looking for the best in each situation?
Yeah.
I told you we were merging.
I like that. So if anybody out there has taken Strength Finders, positivity is my number one. Which, fun fact, on the surface, many people can think that you're fake and inauthentic, because to me, I'm just always like, everything's great.
He's
like,
a golden retriever human.
Yeah.
It's crazy sometimes.
Which, and
so
unguarded.
What do you have to be grateful for in this horrible situation you're in? And you're like, dude, just be a human being. No, but for real, it's a good thing. It is a good thing.
It can be, but I will also say that unguarded strength is a weakness, right? So, like, I can be in my life so blind to some genuine negative things, or just push all of that aside and say, that's not real. I don't need to worry about that. That it can actually be damaging. But I do think it is really important, especially, the world's not always going to be easy. Life isn't always going to be easy. But the reality is, you can't always control how you view the world and how you see what you're going through. Yeah. And if you see every problem as a negative, terrible thing, you're just going to be a negative, terrible person. But if you, that's so harsh. If you see negative things in your life as opportunities, right? To navigate and to handle as best you can and to rely on God if you're a believer, it can be so fruitful in your life, and you can actually become better as a result of that. And do I love everything? No, but like I've shared a lot. I just got to see this firsthand a lot. I feel like growing up in pivotal ways, like I had friends who had to endure serious illness, and watching how their families walked through that in a joy-filled way. It was like, what can come out of this forever change my life. And I compare what I go through to what I saw them go through. And not that life you should always compare, but I'm just like, my gosh, I can be joyful too. I
Yeah.
can find good in this too. My best friend growing up had cancer, and his family, of course, devastated. It's a terrible thing, childhood cancer, and like not fun to walk through. But they decided this is in our lives, right? It's come here. Now, what are we going to do with it?
Yeah.
My best friend, at one point, his little DS would get him through all his surgeries and spinal taps and all these things. And he told his parents, he was like, can we buy DSs for everybody in the hospital? Like everyone in children's? And they were like, no. But they were like, but maybe we can. Maybe we can start something. And so they started an organization in order to get resources, and they would spread Jesus in the midst of the hospital. They would pay for funerals for children who were lost. They would provide all the DSs for all the kids so they could have that through their surgeries. And good came out of bad because of how they chose to deal with their situation. And so I don't want to be a blind optimist and say everything is great. No, some things are just downright awful and bad and not fun. However, if I can say, all right, this is on my plate. What am I going to do with it? How am I going to look at it? Maybe it's an opportunity. Maybe you're going through something. You're listening right now. Maybe you're listening and you're going through something in your life that just feels like it's beating you up. Maybe it's time to change how you're looking at it. To say, yeah, this sucks and this is in my life, but what's the opportunity in it? And what's some good that maybe can come out of it? And I would just say, the Bible tells us God does work all things together for good. And I've just seen that too many times for those who love God and who are called according to his purpose. So like as a believer, we have hope in that and we can see good in bad things.
Yeah. And I have this core belief deep inside that, and this kind of goes to the next question that I wanted to ask, but that when you make a decision, there is always even if you think like it's not the best decision or you feel uncertain, good can always come out of it because you can always spin it a certain way and look at it a certain way and branch off from there. It's like, even if it's something that you view as going down, you can always go back up again and then climb your way back up instead of just going like this, if that makes sense. For people who feel at a place where they're at this, they have this doubt of like this paralysis of analysis or analysis paralysis, whatever we were saying. And they're at this kind of precipice where they have to take that next step and they don't know which one is the next right step. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
How practically and like philosophically, how do you know that you're making the next right step?
Wow.
And like and how did you find that out, like personally?
That's a good question that you didn't prep me for, but that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
It was good. I have to answer this one as a Christian because I don't know any other way to say, here's how you can walk confidently in your decisions. Okay.
Yeah.
So take or leave. If you don't believe as I believe, take what you can, leave the rest. Okay. I've heard a lot of Christians say, okay, before I move anywhere, I need to hear from God. And I will say, pray on stuff, right? Ask the Lord to show you. At the same time, he gave us the book of Proverbs. Why? To apply wisdom to our lives.
Yeah.
And to have discernment. And he gives us the Holy Spirit so that we can make decisions with confidence, knowing he's with us. And so first, I'm going to, bring it before the Lord. Big decision, right? Bring it before the Lord. I'm going to say, okay, what wisdom can I apply to this? I'm going to allow people to speak into my life who I trust. I think for everybody, regardless of anything, have trusted people in your life who you know are going to steer you in the right direction, who are going to point you the right ways, and who you trust to speak into your life. So have all that. I'm going to seek counsel. There's wisdom in a multitude of counsel. That's just reality, and that's applicable to every person. And so choose those people wisely, do all of that. Then if I hear or I sense or it's really, really clear based off of all of that, I've taken it to the Lord. Also, I want to make sure I've submitted fully to him, right? Like, God, whatever you want me to do, I'll do. If I hear or I sense something like, a lot of people tell me and I hear it over and over, do this, I'm probably going to say, all right, well, I'm submitted. That makes the next sense to make that move. If not, and I heard Stephen Furtick preach this message, right?
Steve,
And
be on
he-
my podcast.
He called it, I can't find it. I've tried looking it up. This is about like 8 years ago. But it's forever changed how I view
8 years
decision
ago,
making.
Stephen Furtick slaps.
It does. It does. And the title of it was 50 Shades of Orange. Okay?
I've listened to this.
You know what I'm talking about?
I had it on an
Yeah.
iPod Nano. I would
Yeah.
fall asleep every night listening to random sermons from these
Yeah.
different churches.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And not everybody agrees with this philosophy, so don't roast me. But the kind of idea was, what do you do whenever,
Roast him.
especially if you're like believe in God and you're like, I don't know what God's telling me to do. What do you do? And his entire premise was like, okay, God's given us the Bible, right? And those are like the guidelines. And he was talking about whenever, do we need to wrap up?
No.
He was talking about whenever he was trying to pick the color, that would be the theme for Elevation Church. And he really fell from the Lord. It was orange, okay? And he like felt so confident about that, given a whole bunch of things and all that. And he went into like a paint store. And he looked at the wall, and there's like 50 shades of orange. And he's like taking the swabs back home. And he's like, God, which one? Which one? Which one? And then he just kind of realized, okay, God told me orange. Stay within the parameters. Make the best decision you can.
Like, pick
from
a
there.
damn orange. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta do the thing. You know what I mean? You just make the decision.
Yeah, and so I don't think
For the over spiritualizers out there,
Yeah.
sometimes you just do it. It's not about like, how am I gonna
Yes.
pay my bills? It's like, just pay your bills. You know what I mean?
And so I'm not trying to minimize. Like, I don't want to come off like, oh my gosh, God can't speak or God can't lead. At the same time, God gave us wisdom. He gave us the Holy Spirit. Submit to Him and walk confidently. Make the best decisions you can with the information you have. And then don't look back and say, oh, I made 10 mistakes here. No. Just move confidently, own whenever you're wrong, and move on.
Yeah.
Like,
And if you believe that good can come from any situation, good will come from any situation. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like that's pretty
Yeah.
much optimism.
yeah.
There is a positive way to spin this. I just haven't seen it yet, and this is a puzzle to figure it out. It's
Yeah.
like a Rubik's Cube. Like,
Yeah.
how do I... This is a jumbled mess, but I can figure out how to get this side and then this side. And
Yeah.
it's a chain of reaction of trying to make that next decision. And if you don't know, just do it. Go
Yeah.
with your gut. Just step out and do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that for a lot of people, analysis paralysis is really rooted in just a deep fear of what people are going to think. And I think a lot of people, they actually know this is probably the right step or this is probably the right thing, but subtly, whether it's what am I going to think about myself or what are other people going to think about me, it's really easy to just stay stagnant and stay in one place. Instead, I'm like, do something bold and crazy.
Comparison.
Like, do that thing.
Yeah. Comparison is the thief of joy. That's what Teddy
Yeah.
Roosevelt says.
Yeah. Yeah.
Said.
Teddy.
He's still there.
Brother Teddy. And so it's like, no, just go for it. Make a bold decision and be confident, right? Like, don't walk timidly or with all sorts of fear or what ifs. Like, make a decision and full send it. Balls to the wall.
Balls to the wall.
Just go for it.
Yeah.
And don't hold back.
I think we picked the title for this. Pick the damn orange. No,
Or
just
balls
kidding.
to the wall.
Or balls to the
One
wall.
or the other.
Pick the damn orange, balls to the wall.
That's
I don't know.
so
Who knows what's going
I
on?
can't with you.
Okay.
What else you got? Optimism.
Yeah.
And then, you know what? Life is too short to always be down about everything. And nobody wants to be around somebody who's always like, oh my gosh, you won't believe what happened today. You know, these 10 things. Like, that's life, right? And that's real.
Bad things happen.
Bad things happen. But, like, choose to see the good. Choose to see the positive, you know?
Yeah, and there are, like, if you're a realist and you're like, well, I'm not going to be delusionally happy, there is a way to be a realist and just kind of just understand. Marcus Aurelius, I think it was, he was king at the time, and his son died, and they come to him with the message, and they're like, your son's dead. And he's a baller. He's sitting there on his throne, chilling like this, okay?
Like this.
If you're on YouTube, you know what we're doing. He's just chilling. And then he goes, oh, I knew he wasn't immortal.
Wait, for real?
That's exactly what he said. He said, I knew he wasn't immortal. And then he writes later in his journal, because that was like the public record. And he writes later in his journal, he was like, I was already at peace with this. I had like, for the realists out there, you can just like understand that things are going to happen and go down the probabilities, not constantly worrying if they're going to happen or not. And is this going to happen today? No, just be like, this is something that happened, come to terms with it, and then move it to the side and keep going and live in that upward direction.
That's really good. Yeah, and being like positive about life is not denial. It's not saying, oh my gosh, just being oblivious to any negative things. No, it's just choosing, okay, in spite of them, here's how I'm going to look at it. Lee, my cousin, he's a great photographer. I think the world's greatest. And he said one time to me, I said, what's the key to photos in taking photos? Because I wanted to get better because I don't take good photos. And he said, frame and focus. You've heard me talk about this. And I just thought, isn't that a great life principle, right? Like some things are going to come into your life, your frame, right? But you get to choose how you frame it and what you focus on within the frame. And so, yeah, I might have a difficulty in my life, but how am I going to position that? And how am I going to see that? And what focus am I going to put on that? And I think that's a choice every person listening can make. How are you going to look at the things that come into your life? You choose.
Yep, I agree completely. What do you think about AI?
Well, let me tell you, I have started using it.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly really tempted to run my wedding vows through it.
That'd be actually kind of nice.
I don't feel like that's very genuine.
No.
But okay. I'm like, could it produce something sick? I don't
Kendall
know.
is not in the other room. I mean, she is actually, but so she can't hear us. But you should just be like, write it down, and then just be like, make this more romantic or something.
Yes. Yeah, that could be.
It pops out, and you're just like,
tears everywhere. Tears everywhere. AI is a tool that's terrifying.
Yeah, it's like
it absolutely terrifies me.
The way we treat AI is kind of the way we're treating everything, and this is I don't mean to get like dystopian or whatever.
Oh boy!
But
oh boy!
It's like we just know that it's
buckle up.
Yeah, we know that it's gonna destroy us, and we're like, it's really easy right now. It's really comfy right now. So if it destroys us down the line, like it's okay.
Bro, that's actually so true though.
YOLO. Like I don't know. Vote RFK.
We gotta figure out something. We gotta figure out something with how to control this and make it not blow us up. Yeah. But if we can do that, it's a fun little tool.
It's a fun little tool.
I just made an email with it the other day.
Yeah.
I was like, make this email sound good. And
most of these podcast titles are made by ChatGPT. So thank you. Yeah.
Wow. The Wax On, Wax Off podcast
titles
uses chat. No, all of this. We're not even real. We're not even here. This was all just...
We aren't even real. Sorry, there's a little lag in the Matrix.
Wow, any other... I like that question. Any other...
What do you think about aliens?
I have such mixed thoughts, dude. I really want to believe they're real.
Yeah.
Like everything in me wants to believe they're real. On a spectrum, 1 to 100, 1 being I don't believe, 100 being I do believe. Probably at a 60.
It's pretty good. Joe Rogan, who's like a big alien guy, asked this like Christian philosopher, argumenter guy who like is very smart. He asked him, he was like, "What do you think aliens are real?" And he was like, to be honest, he was like, as a Christian, you can't say there are no aliens because you have to be apathetic. And he gave a list of reasons that I don't remember, but you can't. So for alien deniers, they're out there, you know.
I really think they could be. I don't believe they're what we make them to be in cinema. Cinema. Why did I say that?
In cinema.
But I do think there's really something. What is Area 51, and why didn't we storm it? Sorry, not that I would endorse that or think that's good. I just mean how all of a sudden did nobody storm it whenever that was all signed?
Mr. Beast went there.
It's weird. It's
Mr.
weird.
Beast went
I don't
there.
think that we should because it's government and we need to respect them. But what is there?
Yeah. What do you think about the pyramids?
Probably built by aliens.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
I don't have any other opinions about the pyramids.
Okay. You asked me a question now. Flip the script.
Oh, Solomon Cole. What would the people want to know? Oh my gosh! Wait, does it have to be fun?
I don't care.
You never, I feel like, really get asked questions.
That's true.
As a 17-year-old, I'm actually intrigued to hear this.
Oh boy!
Everybody, buckle in. Put your seatbelts.
Come on.
Click it or ticket.
Celsius.
Wake
kick
up!
in.
Wake up! Wake up!
Okay.
Finish this, Mac.
Yep. Suing.
Sorry.
Suing.
Okay. As a 17-year-old
Oh boy.
who
Yes.
most 17-year-olds are just wasting a lot of their time doing a lot of things that aren't going to produce anything.
I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think they're not wasting their time. I think they are. I like to view it this way: is they are. There's only two ways to live life. You are like consciously moving forward and growing,
Okay.
or you are just staying where you are, and you're not actually staying when you are. When you're not putting any effort in, you're slowly going backwards, and you're slowly like disimproving. That's not a word, but
And I would call that wasting your time.
okay, that's fair.
So,
okay,
but I do agree with what you're saying.
agree to agree.
Agree to agree.
Okay.
So with that being the case, okay, however we want to phrase that, how have you stayed committed to being focused on your future and developing yourself for what's next? And take this podcast, for example. Like, how have you remained consistent in doing that even whenever it's been tricky?
Well, with the podcast, it's been different than usually with other things that I do. I don't want to be in anyone's shadow. I never want to be second place. I'm so competitive, it's not even funny.
That's true.
And I think there are people who just kind of don't give a crap and they just don't really care. Like, I'm fine vaping and doing drugs and just chilling and watching Netflix and YouTube, which there's nothing wrong with that. I watch a lot of Netflix and a lot of YouTube.
Yeah.
But I just don't, I can never settle for like normal, or I can never settle for the status quo. I want to put the best or do the best I can in any situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be good. It can be bad sometimes because then I run myself dry.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really the main reason that I do everything that I do. But now with the podcast, it's finding that outside motivating factor, which is you guys. It's I'm doing this not for myself anymore. I'm doing it for you.
Yeah.
And just kind of trying to be a light in someone's day.
Yeah. How does your faith impact you? Let's talk about that. And what are like 3 tips you'd give to people to grow in their faith?
Like their faith in God.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would say number 1, you have to figure out what you believe about God, who is God. And for a lot of people, there's a lot of wounding surrounding God or Jesus or religion. And what I would say is I would recommend reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. He really beautifully describes that the dilemma that people are in, and if you are at the place where you can't really view like just literally the word God in a certain way, like he talks about a way of kind of changing that perspective and opening your mind up through these different like mental exercises and stuff, and it's really cool. But what was the question? I forgot.
Like, what are like 3 things you would recommend to people to grow their faith, and how?
I would say trying to improve 1% a day. Just make one decision that is going to improve your relationship with God. It just 1%. Over time, that's going to really be a good investment. And if you can do 1%, 1% is very small out of 100%. If you can do 1% every single day, you're going to improve so much exponentially because it just keeps stacking and stacking and stacking and stacking. So that's what I would say is wherever you're at, because we're all individual people, we all have these different needs and things going on in our life. So it's about picking that thing that you're going to like want to improve on. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Favorite sport?
UFC.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Favorite color of Prime?
The red, white, and blue one. America. Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Yep. There she blows.
I'm trying to think. I don't think I have any other questions.
It's okay. We can just call it here.
That's good.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for being on.
Thanks for having me on.
You want to... Okay, I was going to do my own challenge, but do you want to challenge the people that are listening right now? Because they're obviously listening, so that makes them just like not... I don't mean this to be mean. They're doing something that's a little bit different or better than other people are, so they're already like a higher achieving person. So what's the challenge? Whether that's like sharing the podcast or something, what do you want to challenge them to do? I want to start this. I'm starting this right now. I made it up.
I think this is good.
The guest is going to give them a challenge for the week until the next episode comes out.
Okay, let me give a couple and they can pick.
Okay.
All right. 1, set attainable goals that you can develop disciplines for in a healthy way.
Yes, set 1 to 3 goals, because if you set anything more than 3, you're going to achieve none. If you set 1, you're going to probably achieve that one.
Yep.
If you set 3, you're just going to get to pick one of the
Diminishing return.
Yep.
So do not overwhelm yourself. Pick a discipline and do it in a healthy way. Incorporate rest. Do it in a way that's going to benefit you. I also think figure out your why. Your big why is what we talked about a lot. That's beyond yourself. I would encourage everybody to, see where you're at with God and be open to whatever He has in store for you next. No matter if you're a believer or not a believer, just be open.
Believer.
And believer. Well, we're all believers. No, not
That's
actually.
something we can all agree
Our
on.
first dance is a Bieber song. Anyway, and I think keep listening. Right, keep tuning in. Like I've said it a million times, but I love listening to your stuff. I think there's so much wisdom, so much value. So keep tuning in. Share this with somebody, right, who it could be beneficial for, and let this guy know how beneficial this has been for you.
Yeah, it really helps me a lot and inspires me and all that stuff. Yeah, so thank you for being on. What do you want to plug? What's the plug?
Jesus.
Oh my God.
Jesus loves you.
No, but like,
peace out.
You're okay.